This meeting is being recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Giles Edwards sitting in once again for Greg Smalley, who's on a secret mission for Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast. That's the podcast, not necessarily what his secret mission is about, and even if I knew, I couldn't tell you. But I'm delighted to say that with me I have two of my wonderful fellow reviewers, Rob Hubbard, who I've had the pleasure on and off over the almost 2 years that we've been doing this. And joining me again from his secret penguin lair in Iowa is Penguin Pete. So we have, 66% more titles to cover than last week. So we may push this up to 20, 25 minutes as opposed to 15, 17, 18 or so from before. So, how is everyone doing today? Rob?
Doing well. I have doing well. I have to say it's warm. It's a balmy 45 degrees. They say it'll get up to. So most of the foot of snow that we got last week will start to melt off.
Where are you at? Which state?
Northeast Kansas.
Oh, Kansas. Okay. All right. So
you're in Iowa?
Yeah, Iowa.
Okay. I was thinking further east for somewhere, like Ohio someplace, but okay. You're about I think you're the closest to me so far.
Yeah. Us Midwesterners kind of sort of just mixed together into one big heap.
Anyway. It's a big blob of the country, I can assure you, as an East Coast elite. And with that open-minded quip, let's dive right into this slate of 5 screens. We'll start with the first one brought to my attention that I suspect. No, come on. Get to it. There we go.
There we go.
Do you care to take a crack at describing what's going on in this foggy scene? Oh, it's not fog. Ooh, oh my.
It's Pastoral, To Die in the Country in 1974, right?
That's our boy.
All right.
Let's see.
Okay. And we've got a couple in what looks like a burned out gazebo on perhaps some kind of shoreline, or maybe that's just a ravine with fog in it behind them. It's an outdoor shot of the mountains and sky, and we've got the couples. The couple here, the woman appears to be dressed perhaps formally, a cocktail dress and a boa, but her escort looks more like perhaps a limousine driver, only he has white face kabuki makeup on.
So some sort of sub-military uniform, maybe. Rob, your views on this?
Sort of like, it's a chauffeur, but with the face makeup, it's kind of like mime. So I don't know in terms of like with the Japanese theater, but I guess it could be like a mime also moonlighting as in his normal job.
Well, that sounds pretty cool. That might be. I think they might be in front of a volcano kind of area to explain that strange mist emerging from the crack. This is indeed, as Pete said, Pastoral, To Die in the Country, aka Pastoral Hide and Seek, or Dennen ni Shisu. And it is from the, let's see, where are the specs for this thing? Okay, directed by Shuji Terayama, 1974 film. It is going to be on display Friday. That's next Friday, the 24th of this month, 7 p.m., and it is presented by the Japan Society. I believe that is one of those New York City-centered locations. And their little blurb here, let's see. Okay. Fragmented and prismatic, Terayama's surreal manifestation of childhood is a refracted memoir of broken time, inhabited by carnival acts, provincial superstitions, and a chorus of cloaked women. Shot in Terayama's native Aomori against the backdrop of the haunted Mount Asore, a gateway to the underworld in Japanese mythology, Pastoral epitomizes Terayama's unclassifiable brilliance. So, if you have the opportunity and you're nearby, do consider seeing that. Very reasonably priced. It is 7 o'clock showing, as I said, $16 for non-members, $8 for members, with modest discounts for senior students and persons with disabilities. So I'd certainly check it out if I were in the vicinity. We will have a link. Oh, hang on. Don't want to get you too excited. The event is sold out. So if you do find tickets, they might be pricier than that.
Okay.
That's
well, it is good. Looking around, it may be sold out. But if for those intrigued, I have to admit I've never heard of this particular director before. But again, just kind of looking in the cursory research, it says it's the description is fine. This is an even catchier description, which is it describes it as a coming of age, experimental, artistic, surrealistic fantasy, autobiographical drama. It's apparently based on his tanka poetry. And tanka poetry, I guess, is defined as poetry that made up of 5 lines with 31 syllables. I think people are more familiar with the haiku, but this is another form. And for the curious, if you can't make that sold out screening, it can be found on the Internet Archive. So, and I suspect that we might see it in a wider release later in the year, or maybe something like from Criterion.
Yeah, these revivals often kick off broader distribution anyway, and certainly seems the kind of thing any let's see, I could see Criterion probably poking around at this if in the future with a good release, even up Arrows Street. But yeah, so this is something we felt compelled to bring to your interest, and this still is cool. This is a still I chose from among a number of rather neat looking options when I was digging around the internet earlier. So that is item number 1, and we'll move to item number 2. And I'll admit before we do so that I had everything lined up, did all my reading, and merely failed to watch the trailer for this one. So hopefully one of my co-hosts can tell us something about this. Rob, would you describe this still for me, please?
Yes. Well, what we have is that we have on the left a sort of like early middle-aged white woman in multiple with I guess multiples of herself receding into the background, and on her left is her companion, a young black woman, also with multiple copies, receding into the background of what looks to be a quarter blue and white, some with slogans written on them, but you cannot.
Yeah, that might be a blurb from another review there. I think that.
At the top, at the top.
So we can ignore that for now, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this is Omni Loop, and I did watch the trailer for this, and I vaguely seem to remember hearing about this earlier in the fall. I think this came out like September. Haven't really heard that much more about it. The trailer looks interesting. Has to do with the actress Mary Louise Parker, who has a terminal disease, but somehow time travel gets involved, so she's sort of like looping over and over this period of her life, sort of like Groundhog Day. But it seems that there's more of the sensibility of Kaufman film, sort of like being John Malkovich.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Thank you for watching the trailer and giving that breakdown. Yeah, I'd also add to your description of this image, the way it's spaced, and certainly with the arced blue things, I think roller coaster kind of what's it when I'm looking at this with the little zippy light speed line. So definitely energy in this image here, and yeah, the older white woman has kind of look of, I don't know, resignation and bewilderment, whereas the younger black woman seems to have just regret written across her face there. But not having seen the trailer, I can't comment. Yeah, this did come out last year, but I guess it's gotten a wider release, and let's see if we got any blurb about that. I think it actually is available now once one of my overlay menus goes. There we go. No, it came back. All right. So this, I believe, is available now on DVD, Blu-ray. So this is now on Blu-ray, having come out in autumn of last year. And from Rob Hubbard's description there, it does sound pretty interesting. Time loops, I'm generally pretty amused by those because a storyteller's got to want to do that, and that often means they're going to be careful, but sometimes not. And so that is there, yes, with director Bernardo Brito, and starring Mary Louise Parker, Io Edeberry, Carlos Jacob, Hannah Pearl Utt, and of course, I'll include Chris Wataski. So that is available. We'll have some links to that, and there's a non-zero chance one of us may review it in the future. Pete, any thoughts on Omni Loop?
Yeah, I saw the trailer too, and really, it hits me as a Happy Death Day meets Primer. And it's interesting, that premise, because she swallows a pill to travel back in time, but it only travels back 1 week. So she keeps going back for her diagnosis period, and then has 7 days to live. Swallows the pill again, goes back. She's in a Groundhog Day loop until she figures out how to escape it. But anyway, so it looks interesting enough, and I'm sure I'll see it if I chance upon it. But I just got to wonder how many more times indie filmmakers could return to that Groundhog Day loop well, because we've seen a lot of these. Happy Death Day had a couple sequels to it. Triangle does the same thing. Time Crimes does the same thing.
And we discussed Things Will Be Different last week, which is another...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Was there another one last week that was already...
Yeah, Things Will Be Different.
Yeah, that involves some time travel. I think some time travel. So I have to finish watching that. I haven't got... Things get in the way. I only get like 5 minutes into it, and things come up and get in the way. So.
Yeah, it's so hard to just carve out 2 hours to watch a movie these days, isn't it?
Well, it could be I'm just in a time loop to kind of watch that. That's 5 minutes. Same 5 minutes over and over again. And
you can say that again.
A take of Rob Hubbard and his 5 minutes of Things Will Be Different. Wonderful. So that is Omni Loop. We will have the pertinent links. All right, Pete, I want you to describe this dashing young figure who's coming up.
William Shatner, this shot himself, in a jaunty little cape outfit. It's a low shot looking up at him and a church behind him with a somewhat threadbare cross atop it. Looks like a Spanish mission style church with a bell tower up there, and he is looking skyward. In a probably in a mood that I can't quite say, doesn't seem to be too negative at this point, but who knows what's going on. I have not seen this, but this is the world famous, well, not world famous, but maybe pretty famous in film circles for being the movie filmed in Esperanto. And as I understand it, everybody in the cast bothered to actually learn the language and not just speak the lines phonetically.
Oh, okay. Oh, good for them.
Yeah. Esperanto is this artificial language that was created by our intelligence agencies or somebody.
No. It's much more prosaic.
And it was an academic who devised it. To replace all the other languages, but it never happened.
Who knows? See, it's let me quick. Esperanto, here we go. The International Auxiliary Language. It was created by L.L. Zamenhof in 1887. So perhaps U.S. intelligence was involved, but not the CIA, but still probably not. Intended to be a universal second language for international communication. It is very heavily based on Mediterranean languages from my minimal interaction with it. All the singular nouns end with O, which I guess is a poet's dream. That said, there are a number of reasons it didn't catch on, and not for me to cast aspersions on L.L. Zamenhof's baby here, but yes, this entire motion picture, all the characters speak Esperanto, and through the magical powers of internet translation, I put a copy, my review for it, which I whipped up, golly, 3.5 years ago now, is entirely in Esperanto as well. And if you scroll down and get to the footnote, there is the English original. So yeah, this movie happened, and it does have a young William Shatner in it in a very understated performance, possibly because of the language involved. But it's sort of one of those like kind of paranormal art house things that
kind of like art house. It's being I guess how it's being marketed now is sort of like as folk horror, which does fit. Interesting enough, I suspect that Severin did a second volume of their folk horror series, All the Haunts Be Ours. I would suspect that if there's a third volume ever to show up, that this could show up because the second volume also has a couple of movies that were released by Arrow, and some of the features that are on the disc were produced by David Gregory and Kayla Janice of Severin. So it seems that there were at some point it might have been intended for volume 2, and so probably they just kind of did a trade-off with Arrow.
It certainly would fit in the folk horror thing, and there is I've observed a renewed interest in that this past 5 years.
And for all the thing with Shatner, this is Shatner pre-Star Trek. This was the thing that he did just before the series started. And like if you've seen Shatner in pre-rolls, he's actually pretty good. He doesn't when it's Star Trek, that's when he starts to go in that overblown, but he's actually pretty good in this. And I will say that in this release, which gives everything about the making of the film, its release, and I guess its resurgence. It also has a thing on the Esperanto language, the origins of that, and curiously enough, there is more things more movies in Esperanto available than you would think. It's an interesting. As for the movie itself, I think it's an interesting thing. Made by, I guess, Leslie Stevens, who's mainly known for being one of the co-creators of the old Outer Limits anthology series. Leslie Stevens himself is a pretty interesting character, kind of weird adjacent. Maybe now he wouldn't be considered to be all that weird, but in that time, which would have been like late 50s, early 60s, some of the things he did were pretty out there. And Incubus is kind of like the last of that when he had his own production company. It's worth going into looking into Leslie Stevens and some of his projects. In addition to Outer Limits, he did plays, did this series set in rodeos called Stony Brook before Outer Limits with Jack Lord and Warren Oates. and some of those stories aren't quite, they're kind of contemporary Westerns, contemporary at the time, early 60s, but there's like some surreal allegorical category to some of the episodes that he wrote and directed. So that's kind of an adjacent thing, but
I did a little bit of research into this when I reviewed it, and the most interesting thing I found about it were all the peripherals, because there's also any number of little tragic stories about what happened to the cast and crew before, during, and after production of this that are genuinely odd. And
the Incubus curse, as it's referred to, but it's an interesting movie. It's an interesting movie. It's an interesting movie to check out if you haven't seen it before.
Oh yeah, as a phenomenon, I'm very glad it's here. As a movie, I could have been more impressed. I guess I'll.
As movies with William Shatner about satanic horror goes, I would expect The Devil's Reign to be the cursed one. That was just goat-faced, man.
Well, Incubus is way more restrained than Devil's Reign. Although for its time, Incubus is kind of, I guess, would have been considered sort of like out there. In terms of like this, in terms of the satanic content. Well, essentially the story, the basic story concerns like two demons, succubi, whose I guess one of their intent is they kind of hang around this well that's outside of this mission that has healing properties. So because of that, the spiritually damaged tend to kind of like be attracted to the well, and these demons kind of hang around and kind of like pick off souls. And one of the demons, who's the second lead, Alice Ames, who was also the director's wife, and she gets bored. She wants she wants more of a challenge. So here comes Shatner, who's like an injured soldier, pure of heart. So her intent is to basically try to lure him to his damnation, and that sets up this whole chain of events, which brings where they have to raise up the main guy, who is the Incubus, who shows up at the end.
And earlier, as a sort of emo hipster guy, if I remember correctly, he's got his black button-down shirt and black slacks, hiding his true goat monster form.
Oh.
Incubus it's out now on 4K Ultra HD for those of you who've sprung for the Blu-ray processing power and the TV display power to catch every granular bit of mid-60s pre-fame Shatner oddness that you care to with this Esperanto film. So let me see again, having stopped sharing, let's see if I can share again. And we'll move on to title number 4, which has another striking-looking individual in it.
Well, I guess it's up to me to describe. What we're seeing is sort of this very strange character in the foreground, pointing with a microphone, pointing at us, seemingly. While in the background seems to be what I would assume to be like prisoners or refugees. They're all very, very shabby looking and kind of looking towards this person. I'm getting very kind of dictator vibes that kind of from this, like some sort of rally.
Or
I don't know,
claustrophobic kind of feel too, I'd say.
But do I also do the reveal of
I mean,
what
you can go ahead and tell us. Tell us the actress, and then segue. Yeah.
Well, for this, the actress in this case, I should say actor, but kind of skeletal looking. That is Tilda Swinton, and the still is from Snowpiercer, the science fiction movie from 2013. That's also spawned a television series, which I have not seen as of yet. I did see Snowpiercer at the time, and as I recall, there was some controversy whether it would be released or not. It also stars, I guess, Chris Evans, I believe, who was just starting out in his Marvel film tenure at that time. But very good. It's a very good picture. It's based on a graphic novel. Anybody else?
Oh yeah. French graphic novel. Chris Evans, Tilda Swinton, Kang Ho Sung, and John Hurt. He has a nice little supporting role in that as a John Hurt character. He's part of that alumni that I'm guessing, and forgive me this brief segue back to the BBC, I think it was BBC series I, Claudius, back in the early 70s. And it seems every actor who was involved in that was able to go on and do whatever they wanted for the rest of their lives. And always, land film roles, because, John Hurt, Brian Blessed, Patrick Stewart, it's like, that kind of like set them up for life, which I guess was just a wonderful convergence. Like, hey, here's this top talent of, British television all here, and poof, there you go, world, you're welcome. And so, yes, John Hurt continued to be John Hurt for decades to come after his spin as Caligula, I think, in the I, Claudius miniseries. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Snowpiercer. Pete, have you seen Snowpiercer?
Yeah, sure did. I even wrote a review of it, but it was for a different site at the time. Really, science fiction dystopia. It's the big train circling the Earth at the end of the world with the higher class society in the front cars and the lower class society in the back cars. And it's class struggle in a dystopian setting. And if you stand the train on its nose, it becomes either high rise or the platform. Those are also two movies, dystopian movies with class struggle metaphors going on, the haves and have-nots. So anyway, yeah, and that's you've seen the story before, even though it's played out on a train this time. But it's good. I liked it. But again, we're kind of reaching our limit on how many times we can re-preach the lessons of Karl Marx in a dystopian setting. It's so I'm a little jaded on that one.
Oh, okay. That's understandable. Well, the reason we're re-preaching this particular re-preaching today is this movie is now on a 4K digital steelbook. And those of you who have heard me talk about steelbooks in the past, I consider them the apex of human artistic achievement. It is a disc in a steelbook. Can't be touched.
Yeah.
It's a book. It's made of steel, and it holds a disc, and it looks beautiful along the spine amongst your other, hopefully, steelbook collection. So that is out. An Amazon exclusive, Amazon tells me. And I see, I don't think they actually bother to indicate what's on here except in very tiny print here. So
probably not any new features. Probably just porting over.
Disc 1, 4K Ultra HD. There's critics commentary hosted by Scott Weinberg. So I guess they did not nab the director, which is a pity. But then again, language might have been something of an issue for we non-Korean speakers, I believe is country of origin. And a bonus disc talks about the birth of Snowpiercer, characters, concepts. A nice, slap up of, good standard steelbook worthy extras put in here. So that is item number 4. And I have once again foolishly closed my share screen. Here we go. So I will click this button. I will click back here and I will click share. And boom. And first thing we see, of course, is goodbye, Ms. Swinton. We are moving on to this odd image here.
Oh, yes. And this one, when I saw the trailer, this is the one that I said, I got to see this, because just looking at it was pretty amazing.
It is very much something else of a movie, I can assure you.
It is something else, all right. And, I appreciate just trying to give things an original look sometimes. But anyway.
What is this? What does this still have here?
My turn on the description block. We have an interior room with perhaps a circular stage in the middle of it. A couple of spectators are watching a series of women in long formal gowns in a choreographed dance number in a circle, or kind of a Busby Berkeley kind of scene. The room, however, is very industrial looking, I would say, and really the color palette is just bright candy colors, pinks and greens. And this is La Pieta. Came out only a couple years ago, 2022, but I look it up on IMDb, and its alternate title is Piety, so you might find it on IMDb under Piety better,
or under the Spanish La Piedad.
Yeah, La Piedad, that too, yes.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the good people at Film Factory. Looks like they have released. Have they released? I don't know. This is a notice about Eduardo Casanova's latest feature film. We, of course, have familiarity with this guy more than a lot of people, I'm sure, from his, I believe, debut feature, Skins, which came out years ago.
2017. Well, yes, a lifetime ago, practically.
Wow.
So Edward Casanova, very, very charming fellow. I had the pleasure of interviewing him at the Fantasia screening of Piety / La Pieta / La Piedad. And he has particular vision when it comes to his feature stories, as evidenced in certainly Skins from 2017, which is canonically weird, and also in this movie, which I saw on the big screen, which was quite a something to behold. The story, it's a mother and son kind of story, in a very, very mother and son kind of story way. Young Mateo is diagnosed with cancer, much to the maternal delight of his uncommonly protective mother, Libertad. She is happy that she has an excuse to keep her boy home. And it's, Pete described it very well. There's a Busby Berkeley and industrial thing to it. There's an interesting sub-story pertaining to some events in, oh gosh, I want to say maybe 1960s or 1970s North Korea. There's, a little...
Yeah, finding the description of this has it's described as toxic mother-son relationship regime, which was like, which is kind of like, wow, interesting. Watching the trailer, I got like very strong Santa Sangre vibes from it. And I guess with the color, with the whole visual stylization, I'm interested. So I'm intrigued enough to kind of like want to check this out. So
yeah, this falls very squarely into fascinating. Definitely an apocrypha worthy contender. The kind of movie I'm happy to have seen. I couldn't really comment too much on my in real time enjoyment while watching it, because there's a lot going on, and a bit of it is, I think the young people use the term squicky, to describe a sensation I felt more than once.
You said you interviewed him. Is the interview up on the site?
Yeah, the transcript
earlier,
and I might be able to dig around for the audio. Yeah, he was great. I think he's the only person, certainly the only grown man who's ever referred to me as a pussycat. And so,
but
yeah,
you are a pussycat.
obviously, this is very much his vision, as evidenced by. Well, I'd be interested to know, I guess, if there were any compromises he had to make to please distributors, because I did not see any. But that is that. So La Pieta, La Piedad, Piety Film Factory has done it again, and I'm looking over their site here, and I think I might just be looking at an old notice because it's about a theatrical release for last year. So I'm wondering if this is maybe coming on to Blu-ray or something. Anyway, we'll have a link for you. It'll all be made clear there. But we are down to our last 100 seconds, so I'm going to take this time so we're not cut off to say thank you to Rob and Pete for chiming in with me this week. If jet lag doesn't kill Greg, you should see his smiling face for the follow-up podcast, and we'll keep you posted about whatever little leads we might have for guests in the future. So thank you all very kindly.
Good to be here. So we filled the whole session.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Rock and roll.
All right.
Subscribe, listen, tell your friends. Pod 366, Weird Movie Podcast. Signing off.
Bye.
All right.
All right.
Ha!
Go team.
Wherever possible, I try to at least put in a couple plugs for our books, since
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We did it last time.
Yeah, we did, and I kind of would want more information. Yeah, I'm kind of curious about when Volume 2 is gonna,
Drop. Yeah. Do we know if that has an ISBN number this time? Because none of these do.
Yeah, those don't. I'm gonna hope for yes, because
I would hope so. If they're going to be sold on, if they're selling on Amazon, they
and
would
we've
have
seen
to
a copy in a library too. Someone sent us a snapshot.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
No, I'm still trying. I'm still waiting to get my. I'm still waiting to get a copy, but it's like. I have like a backlog. Well, several of the libraries have got several books that I'm trying. So I'm probably going to